Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. My name is Jenna Labor, and I will be your host as we explore the dynamic world of Don Keenan's trial philosophy, The Cutting Edge. Those of you joining us live this afternoon have the opportunity to ask questions and interact with our speaker. If you have a question, please type it into the comments section below, and we will be sure to address it. Episodes are released each week following the live broadcast, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the alerts icon to make sure you don't miss an episode. Today, we have Galen here with us to discuss his experience at the Beast College. I can't wait to hear more about this college and on Galen's pitch about why we should go to the beach for 2 weeks. And I say, most people would be like, why wouldn't you go to the beach for 2 weeks? But we all know, those of us who have been to Papa Don's beach, that you don't always get a lot of beach time when you're at the beach. So I am so curious to hear about how this super long, super intense, really incredible and brand new college was, and on why we should go. So we will put Galen's contact information in the description box below, so you can reach out to him if you have questions about the Beast College or his experience as an Edge attorney as well. Galen, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your Edge journey, how you kind of came to being here on today's podcast, and then let's get right into that Beast College.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having me, Jenna. So for me, I was kind of interested in Keenan to begin with because I'd gone to a lot of trial school, learned a lot, and gotten some really good results from some of those programs that I went to. But I was kind of looking for a system to try a case. And that was, I think, the unique part. Learned a lot prior to that, learned a lot about how to try aspects of cases, but not like a full system. And in my mind, Keenan really kind of offered that. But on the flip side, I kind of did the math and realized that it would take me like a year or a year and a half to go to all the undergraduate courses that Keenan had. And that would be only if I could like make it work across the various weekends. So when Beast popped up, I was pretty interested. It just so turned out I'd had a trial settle a month prior that freed up that 2 weeks anyway. Yes. So I had 2 weeks off and Beast was coming up. So I decided to go ahead and enroll because my theory was at least, and it turns out I was right, that I could kind of get that whole year and a half's worth of traveling back and forth between, New Orleans where I live and the beach and, sitting on Zooms. I could kind of condense all that into a shorter period.
Okay, so was Beast your first Edge course?
Yeah, other than rules. So in order to take Beast, you have to do rules. So my first introduction to Edge was like 2 weeks before Beast. I went to the beach for rules. So I did get to be there for like a couple of days with Misty. Misty ended up teaching my rules course. So it was great. Actually got to go to Papa Don's house, that first night. So I did have a little bit of an intro before I showed up for Beast, and anyone that does Beast will have that same experience because you have to do rules first. Rules is not part of Beast.
Okay. All right. So you come, and I'm assuming also you have to watch that intro to or welcome to the Edge, right? Video.
Yeah. Okay. You've got to watch that, I think, before you do rules, but it's the video. So you're not really there. You don't really get the kind of flavor of it.
Yes. Okay. All right. So you've watched the video, you have done the rules thing. And did you set all of this up knowing you were going to do Beast, or did you watch the video and then go to rules and then Beast came up and you're like, yeah, let's knock this out?
Yeah. So once I decided to do Beast, it was like, I signed up for everything. And then I realized there was like a prereq. So then I like had to move something to make sure I did the rules course. And then I had to do the video. So, it made for kind of a hectic because it was so last minute for me. To get there. But no, I knew I was taking Beast when I signed up for everything else.
Okay. All right. And sometimes we have virtual courses, but did you choose to go to rules in person, or was that what it was offered and that was the option you had?
Yeah. So a couple of things. There was a virtual rules course, but I think I couldn't go for some reason. I had something else. And then I did kind of want to go check it out in person since I was going to be there for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then during all that, a hurricane hit. Like the in-person rules course hit another part of Florida. And
Was that when Helene was going on? Or
that was when Helene was going on. And it didn't hit there, but it hit elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And we do hurricane work. So it was a whole thing. And they were really accommodating. Like, all the Edge staff like offered to set up a Zoom for the in-person course for me if I needed to be dealing with hurricane stuff, but I was able to make it in person.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, I've had this. So let's start with the very beginning and your rules experience. I've had this question from a lot of Edge folks who, especially on the West Coast, we do most of the things virtual, and especially for folks who didn't start Edge until, COVID, when we had this option. Is it worth it? And this is just for that rules course, right? We're not talking about the beast yet. Is it worth it to go to the beach for a college?
Yeah, I think so. On some of the shorter 2-3 day courses, you might not necessarily make great connections just because you're kind of working all day, right? There's not a ton of social time. But I still think it's worth it, especially if you get to go to, Don's house, you get to interact with other folks, but definitely in person for the Beast College, you have to. I mean, just because you need to be with everyone, but I think it's worth it anyway. Like, look, for me, it's not convenient. If you're coming from the West Coast, you got to fly a long ways, but for me, it's about a 4.5, 5-hour drive. So, that's a lot both ways for a 2-day course. I'm driving about half the time I'm sitting in a classroom. Right.
Yeah.
But I still think it's worth it.
Okay. What things did you like about just doing one course over there for a couple days that you felt, I guess, brought you to that conclusion that it's worth doing it? What were the things that you liked?
Yeah, we had a small group. They keep the class sizes pretty small for those in-person courses, which is nice. I mean, I think typically between 6 and 8 people, which is really, really great in terms of like how manageable it is and the space and everything. And, just the opportunity to interact in person with all the folks that you eventually, if you want to keep doing Edge stuff, you'll need to know them and deal with them for years to come. Right. So it's a lot easier when you're actually interacting with that person in person instead of just on a computer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a family, and we all kind of are the same. I mean, there's a couple changes here and there, but I mean, I've been doing this for 6 years now, maybe. Wow. We're all just kind of trucking along together, So absolutely. And you mentioned you get to go to Don's house, and I mean, is he there, or is it just like his house is a spot for you guys to meet?
Yeah. So the course I took, we actually worked at the office, right? Okay. But then at night, the first night, he invited us over to his house for dinner. So we all had dinner with him. He came down, hung out with us for a few hours, talked until he got tired. And then, once he went to bed, we all left. But, before he came down, we all kind of walked on the beach, hung out together. And then for the Beast College, we actually went to his house for graduation, which was really great. And he stayed up with us. I mean, I think he could have outlasted everyone there. Like, we finally got tired and left, and he still wasn't ready to go to bed.
Yeah, he has an incredible amount of stamina when he's on, man. And that guy, I have wondered how he does what he does for so long. He's just go, go, go. And his brain is constantly working all the time. It's pretty amazing.
And they have a lot of, I think people, look, if all you can do is the Zoom, I think you should do it because it's better than nothing. But I think people also underestimate how many in-person events Edge has. So like the day we were there for graduation, he had also been teaching the faculty for Seeing is Believing that day, all day. Okay. So when we got to his house, there were a ton of faculty there, people that we'd seen on videos and heard about and things like that weren't part of the Beast College necessarily, but they were all there for dinner and all kind of hung out with us, and we got to know them all. So
awesome. And is that where you met Ada?
Yeah, that's exactly it. She was there, I think, for the Seeing is Believing, but then she stuck around for graduation and, congratulated us and came and talked to all of us.
Yeah, that's right. Because Ada is the one who connected us and got you on the show. So that's exciting. Yeah, I totally forgot that there was that overlap, but that's very cool. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some logistics. So if you're planning on going to the Beast, where are you staying? Can you go home on the weekends? What do you do? Let's start with that, travel and logistics first.
Yeah. And this is one of the things you cannot pick up from the website, right? So but I kind of figured it out. So all the way from like food to where you're staying, I think you tend not to know what's going to happen. So the first thing that I did not realize is like food is pretty much completely taken care of while you're there, right? There's breakfast every morning, there's lunch every day. So you're really just on your own for dinner. Didn't realize that. So when I went, I actually found like a Residence Inn and like went grocery shopping and packed a bunch of food and stuff like that. So it's just kind of funny, right?
Yep.
There's a bunch of hotels near the office and they give you the address of the office. There's a bunch of hotels near it. And really, you should just pick one that like is bearable for you price point wise. And, you don't probably need the best beach access hotel because you're going to be in class from pretty much 9 to 5 every day. And there's only one day off. So I don't think going home is really a possibility unless you live very close, right?
Okay, so even on the weekends, your class all day for.
Yeah, I don't remember. I want to say we had we either had Sunday off or we had Saturday off, but we had one day off. It was Monday to like the following Friday, right? So we only really had one day off during that time period. So I guess if you lived close, you could have done it. But for me, for instance, I would have spent the entire night before our day off driving home and then spent half of the day off driving back, right? Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't have made sense. Same thing with plane tickets and stuff. So, but that is a good day for you to kind of reset. And that was really helpful. And also when you're in Beast College, like you're going to, that more than any of the other courses, you're going to start to connect with your classmates because you're in a room for 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. So a bunch of us got together on the day off, kind of compared notes, went through things together, and then various groups like did things like went to the beach or went to dinner or whatever. So it is nice to have that day off. But yeah, as far as staying, you just find a hotel close by. Everyone, the 3 courses I've been at there, Beast and 2 other courses, everyone's at a different hotel every time. And it doesn't matter. Everyone just kind of gets to the office for 9 a.m. and then, leaves at 5 or 6 when we're done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. How about dinners? Were dinners on your own?
Yeah, dinners were on our own and less for the other courses, but for Beast, it happened pretty quickly where some people were doing their own thing. And I noticed for Beast, a lot of our folks had their families there in their hotels, which was both like great because they got to spend time with their family, but also they said a little stressful because they were trying to like get ready for the next day. Yeah. But those of us that did not have our families there, within a few days, we're kind of having dinner together at night and stuff.
Okay. All right. And this is all in Santa Rosa Beach, right? Or around that area in the Panhandle?
It's kind of Miramar. So his house is in Santa Rosa and the office is in Miramar. It's all within about 20 minutes of each other. Mm-hmm. So like I stayed in a hotel in Destin. It was about an 8-minute drive. Okay.
All right. So when I was there, I would say I recommend people to get rent a car. You're not going to be driving it around a whole lot, but it is going to help a lot with being able to get here and there, especially because Uber and Lyft, at least the last time I was there, wasn't as prevalent that far out. Would you recommend getting a rental car?
Yeah, I'd recommend a rental car if you're going and you want to kind of connect with people in advance. Like this, I was just there for the deposition hit list course. Mm-hmm. And I will say, had we coordinated, like no one needed to rent a car that rented a car. Like we could have easily carpooled to and from because it's only a 2-day course. But for Beast, I'd get a car so you can you're there for 2 weeks. There's stuff you're going to want to do, even silly things. Like one of our classmates went and got a haircut one morning before class just because he was like, I need to get my haircut. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good to have a vehicle if you can.
All right. Perfect. We got a little shout out here. Let's see. David Bressman says, hello to Galen. He was a Beast rock star. David, were you at the Beast with Galen? Galen, were you at the Beast with David?
I was. So David, we actually had a father-son at Beast with us.
Oh, that's exciting. Great.
It was really cool. It was really cool to see, the next generation, like within the same firm, and the training. David's fantastic. He's a war horse of a lawyer. He's seen it all, done it all. Nice. And he's one of those lawyers that's taken like those missed cases and really turned them into like massive verdicts. So it was like, I learned a ton at Beast, but I also probably learned just as much from just watching David and hearing David's like insight. And that was the cool thing about Beast is you spend 2 weeks with all your classmates and you do start to learn from them too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And for family stuff, it is good to know that people can bring their families if they need to, right? That's, you mentioned that some folks had their families there. So if anybody's worried about, you have young kids or whatever, bring them along, let them do the beach thing while you're not. But just remember, you're not going to be on vacation with them. So
no,
yeah, that they can do their own
homework, right?
Yeah.
And people don't think about that. They think they're going to be in class like 9 to 5, each day, but they're not. There's reading for each course, and sometimes there's things they want submitted. So you really are kind of spending the night after kind of going through your notes from that day and then making sure you have everything done for the next day. So yeah, I mean, we had a guy in our class, great guy, his wife and his 3 kids came down. So he said nighttime was a little hectic, but at the same time, he wouldn't have been able to come if his family couldn't have come, because it would have been too much to just leave her alone overnight with the 3 kids.
Yep, absolutely. That's good. Okay, awesome. Now we have a second shout out from David Crump. 100% of our comments and questions today, right now, are from David's. Hi, Dave. So Dave says, looking forward to seeing Galen in our Closing Damages College in Seattle in December. So you're coming up here.
I am coming to the West Coast.
Well, then you and I will also be meeting in person, because this is where I am. This is where
that's exciting. That's exciting. Yeah, no, I actually was just, I'm going to take the virtual closing liability so I can come up to the Seattle Closing Damages course.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're getting sneak peeks, those of you who are following along, about what courses are not included in the Beast, right? So rules, now we know the closing one isn't. So let's jump into what day one looks like. And we'll just talk through the whole 2 weeks, what courses you get, and how that all works on the more substantive side.
Yeah, sure. So day one was great. I think the tone you kind of start with is the tone you'll have. And they did a really, really good job. So we started our first class, I want to say, was openings, which makes sense. It's a good place to start. And Brian Sanford taught it, who is, for anyone that doesn't know him, just the world's nicest guy. And that was a great way to get started, right? Because he was able to really kind of, bring us in. Like it was he was able to keep kind of a slower pace, because also with only I think 8 of us total. So we still had time to kind of go through all the material and practice a little bit. And, and I think Will gave us an orientation, but it was like 50. Anyone that knows Will knows it was like a 15-20 minute. There's the bathrooms, there's drinks, food will be here later. There's the Wi-Fi. Don't bother me. Right. Yep. But no, the first day is great. You jump right in. You don't really know what to expect, or I didn't, at least. There were some folks there that I gathered they'd been to a few courses already, so they kind of had some idea, but most of us at Beast, I felt like, did not have a lot of interaction with Edge. So we're all kind of starting from the same place, and that's really helpful for the first day.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of the other students were newer to the system, kind of, in your same shoes.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like David Bressman, who just shouted out, he had been to like reptile stuff for years and stuff like that, and not necessarily a lot of Edge stuff, but I think he started a little bit of a higher baseline, but the rest of us, I felt like it was pretty much just rules, and that was kind of it. Right. Okay. So we were all kind of starting in the same place. So that first day with openings, it was great, because it was kind of like everyone was just kind of getting their feet under them, and you didn't have to worry about, like, I don't know. I feel like it's intimidating when you go to one of these things and there's people that have like already done it a bunch. Right.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, if I do it, it's always nice to bring a case through the colleges, but if you do them individually, it's rare that you have one case for all of them. If you're doing it for a year and a half or whatever, your case may settle and you're like, oh, I didn't get to take it through depositions or whatever. So I think what I would do as a graduate is go bring a case and take those 2 weeks to just work up that case and not have to go through all the colleges again individually on that.
So that wouldn't be like my thought. And I'll tell you, and we can keep going through the days, but we covered a lot of material really fast. Really fast. And if someone goes back and does the math, like openings, we did openings in one day. How many days is openings normally? Is it like 2 or 3?
2. That's 2.
2. So something is going away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's one of the things that Edge is working on. And I gotta say, like, one of the coolest parts is when we were done, Papa Don like pulls us all aside and is like, so what could we do differently, right? And you can tell they're taking all that and kind of fine tuning it. But what we lost a lot of was the role play.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much content, there's videos, there's PowerPoints, there's demonstrations, there's things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a lot of the role play. So like, I think Beast is great for anyone, especially that hasn't finished undergraduate programs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would go back again and bring a case because I might not get up on my feet and do much with the case,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like openings, I would be able to do that, maybe witness prep, but I don't think like damages, clothings, I'd have much of an opportunity. Like, with that said, with the homework, you're like working your case, right? You're going through like the intellectual process, but there's not enough time. If you're condensing one subject down to one day, essentially 8 to 10 hours of instruction, there's not enough time to do all that and get 8 people on their feet for that case for each subject, right? You got to kind of pick and choose. Like focus groups, we all did the focus groups, right?
Right.
But that was also 2 days, and that was the only.
Okay.
Yeah, focus groups was 2 days, and black letter law was 2 days, and those are the only multiple day courses we had.
Okay, and so you didn't have any graduates in your group?
I don't believe so. If they were graduates, then they were hiding it.
All right, I'm gonna dig into this because I'm curious about whether I want to talk to Ada. I want to talk to a bunch of people and see if there's a market for making Beast, maybe having a Beast for those of us who are graduates but want to bring a case through or that sort of thing. This is fantastic information. Thank you. For that.
We're less content rich and more role play, and yeah. And awesome. I think there's definitely a market for that, and I think they're going to make some adjustments to Beast as it goes forward to get more role play time in as well. Yeah. Which, let's face it, will probably just include more homework at night to get rid of some of that stuff, right? Because there's only so many hours in the day, but it still would be like even more homework would still make it worth it because the content is so great. So the more you can get some of that on your own and then also get up with these faculty who are fantastic, like while you're in a room with them, you want to get up and practice, right?
Yes. Okay. So in your openings day, right? Because you haven't taken the openings course, so you don't have anything to compare it to, but did you come away with a draft of your own opening?
Yeah. So we had already submitted like our rules and stuff, right? And then we spent the day kind of going through the model for an opening, what that should look like, watching some openings, the material. And then anyone that wanted to, it's the first day, so not everyone was like jumping up, right? Yeah. But anyone that wanted to had the opportunity to kind of do their opening. Okay.
So people got to test it out, and then you get to see the feedback that they get from the instructor.
Exactly. And then, so then they give feedback. Okay, well, this was kind of what we were talking about. This wasn't, talk to me about where you got from there. It was a great day and a really good intro. And that's, I think, when that clicks for anyone that wasn't sure, like, oh, this is really a system.
Yes. Okay. All right. So you jump out with openings. By the end of your day of opening, you had at least a start, right? You've already come with your rules, right? Which is a big part of opening. Then you kind of get a start. So that's super important for the audience to understand. And we'll go through this with each day or each course, mini course of the Beast, what you come away with, because I think that's so important. You're not just sitting there through the course, listening and hearing about how to do something, but you do get to put something together and bring that home with you to build on, perfect, refine, focus group, all that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you take that home that first day, and then like it's on you because you're going to be there for 2 weeks, right? To really like make those notes and hold on to that, right? And make sure that you have it with you like at all times. But it's you leave that first day with, okay, so not just on the case I did, but kind of any case, this is what I need to be aware of.
All right. Awesome. Okay, just as an FYI for everybody, Ada says we are planning Beast Phase 2 in the second half of 2025. So, wow, this is very exciting. As we speak, I always go on and on about how Dawn and everybody at KTI like takes feedback and actually puts it to use, because I feel like so many CLE programs or whatever. They're like, what do we do bad? And I'm like, here's a whole list. And they're like, thank you. And they throw it straight in the trash. And like,
oh yeah. And you're like, why did you even
like, why?
ask me? Like, I know you didn't care, and that's the thing is you never know whether someone's going to care or not, but you definitely got the feeling like, I mean, Don would ask you like, how did you feel about this? How did you feel about that? What should we change? And you did get the feeling that like he was going to take that back and tell people, hey, like, he didn't necessarily agree with everything people said, but he was great about, for instance, there's some videos you have to watch. You just have to, as part of these courses. And one of the things another classmate came up with is maybe we could watch those videos at night. And that would give us some time to kind of be on our feet role playing. And he was like, that makes a lot of sense. We just have to figure out a way to keep those videos safe while letting you watch them. And we're like, exactly. So if you guys can figure that out, and you could tell he's interested. I don't know, will it work out technologically? Who knows? But it's like, you could tell he was like already going to have someone look into that.
That's awesome. All right. So we've got day one, we do openings, we come away with a draft, an outline for our case. And then what happens on day two?
Yeah. Move into depositions, right? Which I think I thought, at least because I'd taken other deposition classes, was going to be like, make sure you ask like this type of question, make sure you funnel, but it was really about the approach to depositions in the first place. Right. Not like detailed, like creating your hits, right? It's a different course altogether. But what I realized quickly is if you don't understand that deposition course, you can't prepare a case for trial using the EDGE method at all. Like you just can't, right? So that was like an exhausting day because it was so much information so fast, but it was really great.
And why is that? What do we use depositions for in the EDGE system?
We use depositions for winning our case, not for anything else. And and I come from a very traditional, like, depositions are the primary discovery tool. Like, here's clinically how you take a deposition, right? So there's just so much to take in so fast. But it was like great, but you're like starting to get tired already, and you're like, it's day two. What am I going to do? Right. I bet.
And then you're at this point, openings, okay, it's just a different format, it's a different information. But right off the bat in day two, you're if you've never done EDGE stuff before, you're reframing how you do discovery and how you think about depositions. And that's really intense.
And that's kind of what I guess I realized is it felt, when you look at the order, like online, it looks a little random, like why openings and then depositions and then witness prep. Like, shouldn't witness prep be before depositions, right? Like, you can kind of shoot all these holes in it, but then when you get the content, you're like, oh, I understand why they did it that way, right?
Nice.
Openings is kind of framing the whole case anyway, and it's not a secret. Don puts in his book, he writes the opening before he files the case, right? So it makes sense that you start there if you know that, but if you don't, you're like, well, shouldn't we go through the discovery stuff first, right?
Oh, I didn't even, as you were saying openings, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. But then I've kind of been EDGE brainwashed, which is good. This is good. This is a good learning moment for me. I am starting to think that way because it makes perfect sense, because you try to, and I am not perfect at it, but you do try to write your opening as soon as possible, very early, before filing if possible, really soon after, if not. So, so the order of the courses is the order in which the EDGE system should be implemented, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And, it makes a lot of sense, with the exception of focus groups. Focus groups is at the end, right? And that's something, of course, you're doing throughout the life of these cases, but you couldn't learn focus groups if you didn't know how everything plugs in, right? Because how are you going to do that? But yeah, depositions day two, it's fantastic. And then you move into witness prep, which I found to be, of all the days, like, it was really good and it was really helpful. And witness prep is so different for Keenan. Obviously, we can't get too into that in the podcast. There's not a lot of information about that, but it was also a more relaxing day that we had, because the witness prep method is so easy that once you kind of like let go of whatever you were normally doing, I found that was like, it was still a full day, but I found that it was like very relaxing and just made sense. And that was one of those days where everyone got a chance to get up on their feet and do a witness prep, right?
Okay.
To make sure you really understood how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Have you had a chance to implement witness prep since?
Absolutely. And it's great. People, when they talk to you about it, like it looks like it takes more time, but it doesn't. It takes a longer time, but not more time, if that makes sense. So witness prep for us now, after going to Edge, lasts over a few days, but it's also not necessarily like you're not woodshedding a witness for 10 hours a day for 3 days. What it is all very natural, very comfortable, and it allows the client to go in there and just tell the truth in a way that really protects the case.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, absolutely. Oh, I'm super happy that you've been able to kind of put to use what you learned, kind of like right away and see results. Did you feel a difference in, how about your own confidence and your own security about how your client was going to do when you walked into that deposition?
Yeah, I was probably more apprehensive, right? Because it was new, but the client did really well. And since then, I haven't been as apprehensive. I still think at the end of the day, no matter how you learn witness prep, some people are going to be confident and some people aren't. And then you're going to have the ones that are just frankly loose cannons, and you didn't know that until they got into their deposition, right? And it doesn't matter what type of prep you did with them if they're a loose cannon. With them, you still have to watch out. But by and large, the depositions that I've defended since going to Beast, which was only in October, but I've defended probably 6 or 7 since then, they've been so much more comfortable because the client just goes in, they just tell the truth, but they tell the truth in a way that protects the case.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all, Edge Witness Prep is about empowering your witness just to tell the truth. Because, how many of us have had a plaintiff, let's just use plaintiff as an example, that you have your witness prep ahead of time. They're like, tell me what to say. What do I say? What do I do? And it's like, we're not here to tell you what to say or what to do. It's your life. It's your experience. You've lived this whole thing. We're here so that you have that confidence instilled in you to say that. But I mean, you're right. You can do all the witness prep in the world and you can still have somebody just kind of like go rogue. But some client feels insulted by opposing counsel and they just don't react well to that. And you got to kind of pull them out in the hall and be like, I need you to go back to where you were with me yesterday, but it's easier because they were in such a kind of calm place with you over the course of the several days of witness prep that it's easier to pull them back to where they need to be. Good point. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was great. And then we moved on to damages, which was, of course, anyone that has taken the damages course knows is one of the more fun ones because you basically Don Keenan teaches the course even if he doesn't come in person, right? You essentially watch closing after closing after closing of Papa Don doing closings, and then you dissect them and explain why they exist and how they work and look at some of the focus groups he did and things like that. So that's just a great opportunity to kind of see what Papa Don himself does and did and how he came up with it. And you kind of get inside his head, it's a great course anyway. That's one I'll probably go back to on its own a couple of times, just because I'm sure there was so much in there that you just couldn't even get.
All right. And who taught damages?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I do not remember as I sit here.
I was trying to remember who taught it to me, and I'm
that's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And he was so nice and so great. And later I'll run into him and he'll be like, so you forgot who I was.
Well, whoever it was, you need to make yourself more memorable because.
Oh, ouch. Yeah, no, he was great. But he even made the comment. He's like, yeah, I like this course because I don't really teach it. Don Keenan teaches it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of pressure off, that's for sure. Yeah, I teach a couple of courses, and when any of it is left up to us, I'm still like, oh, I'd rather just put a video on and let Don tell you how it goes.
Oh yeah, 100%, right? Yeah. 100%. But yeah, now it's going to drive me crazy that I don't remember, but hopefully he'll forgive me.
I'm sure. Well, especially being a newbie, we don't all know everybody or remember everybody's names.
Well, and you take so many courses in 2 weeks, right? And you like almost can't get too emotionally attached to the staff because it's like a different staff.
Oh yeah, every day. Okay, right? So we've got openings, we've got depositions, we've got witness prep, we've got damages. So that's 4 days already that we've gone through. And
it was Todd Bayless. I knew I'd remember. It was Todd Bayless.
Todd, okay. All right. So by day 4, when you're talking about damages, how are you feeling about your case overall? I mean, I'm assuming you brought kind of one case to at least track through here.
Yeah, I kind of brought one case to track through. Some of the days kind of required you to submit some homework based on that case, and other days didn't. Just kind of depended on the day. But I did bring one case. At that point, I guess I was feeling like both better and worse about the case, right? Because now I'm trying to rethink everything. So in that way, I'm feeling worse. But on the other hand, I'm seeing different things, right? Mm-hmm. It's only so much to, kind of read the blogs and watch the first video and like understand inherently like Bubba doesn't care about your client, right? But then to actually watch how all those different pieces come in, like it's empowering, but it also makes you kind of re-question everything you've done already so far in the case.
Next
right?
Question: where were you in your case that you brought before coming to the Beast?
Yeah, about middle. Still time to do more discovery, so plenty of time to kind of deal with any deficiencies I learned, and that was something I had picked up from reading the blogs. Is like I did not want to bring a case that was going to trial in a month, right? Because what I was going to learn might be helpful, but it wouldn't really be the system, So I knew that. So I intentionally picked a case that's like set for trial this coming summer. Still a bunch of time by Louisiana standards where I live for discovery. So knowing that I could kind of get that case, quote unquote, back on track, which is what I'm doing now, right? Like after I got back, I sent a ton of written discovery out and canceled the depositions I had set, and then I'll get those set here in a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it was, by then you're feeling okay, but it's a little out there.
Your world is kind of like, upside down.
100%. Yeah. Plus, at that point, like you've been doing this for 4 straight days, which by any measurement is like a long time if you're in a CLE or a class or whatever. So you're also like just trying to keep up with life, right?
This is the hardest thing for me because even a 3-day course, I am not about it. I'm like, by that 3rd day, I am so tired of listening. I don't want to hear anymore about it, but that's 3 days of the same thing. So I am just trying to kind of wrap my brain around maybe 1 day of different things. Maybe I can handle that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can, but look, I'm a graduate of like Jerry Spence method. So I went to that 3 weeks on the ranch, and 3 weeks of anything at all ever is a lot. But I knew I could do this 2 weeks because I'd done 3 weeks. Right. But what I did notice both with myself and with my classmates is like in the middle of the 2nd week, like definitely people start to get tired. So you have to know that, and you have to kind of pull yourself out of it. And that was something that Mindy actually did a really good job at. Mindy, I think, knew that. So there was one class that she taught the 2nd week where she kind of took a much slower, kind of relaxed pace, kind of mixed in. So just ask me all the stuff you want to know about all the things you already had, because I think she knew people were a little tired and a little out of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. Was yours the first Beast that was offered to non-faculty? Because I think they did like a beta study with faculty.
I don't know, but yeah, I knew there was a beta before that. So this must have been the first group.
Okay. All right. So it's good to know that folks can kind of chug through about a week in a couple days, and then we got to give a breather or something.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's doable,
All right. We're on day 5. What's the Friday first week?
Admitted liability.
That's a good one.
It's a great one. And I don't do personal injury, right? So for me, it was so interesting to watch and listen and learn. And there was stuff that was applicable for me anyway. And what it really let you do is kind of start to put a bow on the method itself and what matters and what doesn't. Because like in my mind, not as a personal injury lawyer, like you need to learn admitted liability because it happens all the time to you, and you need to learn why that stuff's relevant. But as like a first party lawyer, there's a lot of stuff that's still applicable. And like, for me, it let me really kind of zone in on like what evidence you're actually trying to put in front of the jury and why that's important. So I had a lot of fun that day, maybe because it was lower stakes for me because
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with admitted liability, but I enjoyed it. And it was really cool to watch the personal injury lawyers in the room, which is pretty much every other lawyer, kind of wrestle with that because they all have stories about getting screwed by the defendant admitting liability.
Yeah. It's really mean. It's not a kind thing that they do. They know it. And it's just, and then judges jump right on the bandwagon and just start woodshedding your case by just, you can't do this now and you can't do that now. And they're like, what's going on? So super important for us PI folks out there to do that admitted liability course. Galen, did you have any employment lawyers in your group?
I don't know. We didn't, which I got to say is probably the coolest thing. It's like, so in Louisiana, Fifth Circuit, worst place in the country to be an employment lawyer. You've got Brian Sanford, who has like the largest like single plaintiff verdict in Texas of all places, teaching your courses. Like that's awesome. And, that tells me that, the system works because you can take this practice area that generally is seen as a really hard practice area. And you've got these people with just massive, massive results.
Yeah, Ada and I have been really trying to work up the employment side of the edge. I think there's just been a little bit less outreach, even though now I know in recent years they've been doing a lot of cool stuff, and there's even a employment RA program and that sort of thing. So, I'm happy to hear that there's stuff within this BEAST program that even if it wasn't directly applicable to your cases, you still found extremely valuable and were able to see where some of the concepts might work in your cases.
Oh, for sure. And like looking at the employment stuff, like it's obvious why it works, right? Because what you're doing is making this entire case about a system and not about your client. And I think, I did employment work back in the day and it was always about my client. It was always an uphill battle. And like half of me wanted to go back to doing employment law, like when I got out of here, because I was like, man, I could have made so much money. Like had I just been doing this back then,
I find myself falling into it sometimes because, the defense wants to focus, let's just say it's an employment discrimination case or something like that. And they want to focus on, well, tell me about the discrimination. What did they say? When did they say it? And how many people said it? And how often was it said? And I start to fall into the pattern of, oh my God, we don't have a lot of evidence. I mean, they only made like 3 comments and it was behind closed doors. And it can get in your head focusing on that event. But what EDGE does is help bring, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but it brings it up into that 30,000 foot view of, we don't have to prove, every little thing and that it was like this massive amount of discrimination or whatever other, event it was. It's that the larger system, the company, the training, the qualifications, the supervision, all of those things were not done correctly. And that's where EDGE really, really shines in any case, including employment, as you're aptly pointing out. Oh, Dave Crum says that Brian's coming to damages as well. So your buddy will be there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
Right. Yeah. All right, everybody, come to Seattle in December because apparently everyone's going to be there. All the cool kids.
Well, there you go. I'm excited to get to go, although I'm sure it'll be cold. But yeah, no, look, it was great. Admitted liability was fantastic. And, it really gets you out of your head. Like, okay, they admitted liability, boo-hoo. What do you still have to prove? And what does that do for you? And of course, Mindy was teaching that. So like, she doesn't exactly spoon feed it to you. She's like, no, think about it, tell me. And she forces you to really go through like the intellectual exercise of it all. Right.
Yeah. Yes. And that's hard, especially when your brain isn't quite molded into the EDGE way yet. You're like, what are you, I remember that from the beginning. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't know. What are you talking about? But it's the best way to learn. It really is.
No, it is for sure.
So what comes after admitted liability then?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird schedule right after that. So then the next day, Saturday, and it's black letter law.
I was going to guess that. I was like, I bet you black letter law comes after that.
It makes sense. Makes sense. See, I would have thought, okay, you want the discovery and the law stuff first, but it makes sense once you know all the stuff and have known for years. So black letter law is on Saturday. You have Sunday off, and then Monday is black letter law again.
Oh, good. I'm glad they give you a break in between that because I have not done black letter law yet. It is the most elusive course for me. For whatever reason, scheduling never works out. And but I can imagine ending your week with that. You'd need a little bit of a day.
And it's not a day off, right? Because then your assignment is basically to go back, do a bunch of research, and write a brief. So it's like,
is that Greg? Greg does this to you?
That was Thomas Morrissey, but
Thomas did it to you.
But Greg's definitely there with you in spirit the whole time because they keep showing videos where he's going on and you kind of feel like he actually showed up at graduation and we're like, oh, we feel like you taught us.
Yes. Oh man. Okay, awesome. So what are the 2 days of black letter law? What do you learn in the first day and the second day, just kind of briefly?
Yeah, they're great. So the first day is really making sure you understand what that really means, how that works, how that's structured, giving you examples of why black letter law is important in the Keenan method, giving you example, going through some of the motions in limine that defense will file, talking about why that's important. Then you go do your research, kind of come up with your own arguments for your state. And then the last day is tying some of that together and then actually getting up and making your arguments, right? Like he calls it, going through what the trial brief has to have in it, how you're going to structure your trial brief. So that last day you're on your feet again, kind of going through, okay, here's what my state's law says. Let's all kind of workshop this together and figure it out. And by the time you leave black letter law, like those 2 days plus the home day, you have like templates for pretty much every motion in limine that you would expect that's like anti-edge. And you have your template for your trial brief.
Awesome. Oh, that's worth its weight in 2 weeks away from your family and the whatever tuition as well. I mean, that's incredible. Because the reason I was going to guess that black letter law came after admitted liability is because you find your way through an admitted liability case by relying on the law. And that's something that I don't know if we've emphasized a ton on this podcast, but edge comes from black letter law. Don is not making up arguments. He's not coming up with woo-woo ways to present the case to try to, slip things by the jury or by the judge or whatever. It is all based on, everything going back to common law when we came over here and declared ourselves independent from the crown. All of this stuff is written in stone. I mean, so when you're talking about deterrence or conscience of the community, and you're like, well, in my jurisdiction, we don't have punitive damages. I don't have punitive damages in my jurisdiction. Washington, we have none. And I get to use deterrence and conscience of the community in my closing arguments because I have all the briefing on it. And so this is what edge gives you, and it's magnificent.
No, and black letter law is so good at that, right? And, but you actually get up and do that. So like I was used to getting the motions in limine that's like, exclude all references to conscience of the community reptile. And my standard response was, I have no freaking clue what you're talking about. I'm not sure what words I can use, what words not, always get the same ruling deferred until trial. And it was never an issue. Right. But then taking black letter law, like realize, in our pattern jury instructions, there's 8 references to the jury being the voice of the community or the conscience of the community. Right. So how can you exclude exactly what the judge is going to tell the jury they have to do?
Yep.
And then of course all the like out of state lawyers were like, oh my God, I need to practice in Louisiana. That's so great. But
have something in yours. I mean, I don't remember if it is in our jury instructions necessarily, but you've got something. Everybody's got something like that because the purpose of tort law is deterrence, period. Otherwise, why are we bringing it in front of these people? Like, why are we bringing it in front of the jury if they're not the conscience of the community?
Well, and that's the whole pitch, right? Is like, the defense owns certain things like negative attribution and things like that, but we own the law because the law was created to protect our clients.
Exactly. Bingo. All right. Oh, I'm fired up. All right. 2 days.
Now you're ready, huh?
2 days of black letter law. I'm so annoyed that I haven't been able to go yet. And that's on me. That's not on anybody but me. But all right. So black letter law, you come out of it with some excellent briefing, ready to slam that onto the judge's desk and win motions like crazy. What happens on, I guess, would be Tuesday now of the second week?
Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah. So seeing is believing.
Okay. It's a good one.
Mindy comes back in and it's again, I think like she knows, and she kind of combined admitted liability and seeing is believing. So she did a little bit each day. It wasn't as like regimented or structured, but it was nice because again, it's like Tuesday, you're exhausted, you're really tired, your day off, you like wrote a brief, right, and did a bunch of legal research. So again, it's a slower, nicer day to kind of be able to look through visuals, right? What should trial visuals look like? How do you figure out what a good visual is? Like, you still have to pay attention, you're still learning, but you're not like, you don't have to get up and practice that because she's not going to make you get up and draw a chart. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was again, like a really nice day of kind of like tying that together. Okay. We've talked about all these words, but how do we show this to a jury, and seeing things like the silent opening and things like that, where they literally don't say anything other than I'm going to show you some things and go through an entire opening visually, just to see how things like that can work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting one too. You're not learning new techniques or new law. So that's probably why it feels a little bit more relaxed. And you're just getting these really cool ideas on how to visually depict and show the jury what your case is about. So yeah.
And we started using those already. Like some of the visuals that we got from that course, like I've started using them for troublesome issues, as an example, we on the personal injury side, I have a premises liability case where our client was caught with a paid lady. But it turns out there's a lot of famous people who are very well respected that have been caught doing the same thing, including like the United States Secret Service, right?
I know exactly where you're going with this. Yeah.
So creating a visual from that course, kind of showing that was helpful when we were focus grouping it, because it kind of insulated him a little bit from that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And then I imagine you're going to use those to the best that you can in discovery, deposition.
Yep. Discovery, opening, depositions, again, just making sure that they think it's this big salacious thing and just making sure the jury understands it's actually pretty common.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, absolutely. And the cool thing I remember, because I took the Seeing is Believing course before they revamped it, is learning, kind of when to disclose it, right, early as possible. How to use it within your discovery to make sure that it's going to be set up for being admissible at trial. Because I think I'm definitely guilty of, 2 weeks before trial, I'm like, oh God, what visuals am I going to use? And, send me your family photos and all that stuff. But you run the risk then of it not being admitted, because nobody's testified about it. So the Seeing is Believing course really does a great job from my recollection of helping you not only devise visuals, but also make sure that you can be able to use them.
Exactly. And, it's just so helpful to start on those visuals. Cause same thing. I mean, my standard like visuals, cause I do first party, was like build a timeline, usually like in the 2 weeks before trial, right? Find a bunch of bad photos, which were photos they already had, but kind of do some compilation, maybe, call in some things, highlight some things. But again, no one had testified on any of that. So by doing it early, it's all kind of teed up.
Yep. And you're going to be able to use it. No one's going to be able to fight. They will fight you, but they might not be as successful.
Exactly.
All right. Seeing is Believing. And what's next?
Last thing, 2-day course, focus groups.
Okay. Okay.
So
you end Thursday then on the course.
Yeah. Cause the Friday is like takeaways and disconnects. So the Friday is a day where you still go in and Mindy works with you, but it could be anything. Right. And really people showed up and they're like, hey, I have this question about day 2, right? Or day 1. And because she's done this forever, she was able to kind of walk through. She could pick up wherever any of the faculty had left off.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I'm surprised Mindy doesn't teach the beast herself, because Mindy is a beast and she knows all of this stuff like the back of her hand. And I bet you.
Yeah, I think she doesn't want to be there for 2 straight weeks, but yeah.
All right. And focus groups, share a little bit about what you come away with, personally for your case on focus groups.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's great because you have your case that you've kind of been working up, right? And you will do 2 mini focus groups on your case over those 2 days. So the first day you'll kind of do it a little cold. And then that evening you'll get feedback on kind of what you could have done differently or better. And then the next day, so then that night you'll kind of fine tune it. And the second day you'll do another focus group with a new group. And, it's short, it's quick, but you also get to watch all your colleagues do it too, which is really great. And, for us, that was huge because I came back and was like, okay, that's it. We're focus grouping early and we're focus grouping often, and we're starting a week from today. And, my staff was like, what? And now we're running them every 2 weeks at the office. We'd never run them in house before ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, learning how to do them and then having like a partner too, I used to watch people do focus groups. When we were in RA, I would watch Dawn do them, watch videos of them. And then, I had a couple people run focus groups for me because I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And then little by little, you will get there. And as we always say, running your own focus groups is important, not only because of the information you get, but because of the practice you get to put in. Right, Galen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
And they use people from the community, right? So you get real focus groups coming in.
Yeah, they were real people. They were on Zoom. So it was kind of cool because we all got to sit there and watch while someone would like get up in front of the computer and do it. And it was entertaining, different personalities. Like the first day the people were a hoot, the second day they were a little more serious, but yeah, they're real focus groups. So 100%.
Nice. You really learn how to interact with people who have different opinions or different backgrounds than you, and how to swallow some negative feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really learning how to properly present your case to actually get the feedback you need.
Yeah, that's key. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, again, raise of hands. I know nobody can see me, but how many of us have presented a case to a focus group and everyone, they don't get it. They don't understand it, maybe, number one, or number two, they hate it. And you're like, well, damn, I thought, it was pretty good, but that focus group is going to help you restructure, rephrase, tell, what was important, what wasn't, what did you hate, what did you love? I mean, you'll learn how to, exactly like you said, present your case, not just from the class, which you do also, but from the exercise of doing those focus groups.
And also just kind of grasping and understanding and accepting the idea that like a bad focus group is a good focus group. Meaning, I had a colleague of mine continue to like mock try his case and focus group his case over and over and over, not using this method. And he kept getting 9-10 figure results no matter what he did. Mm-hmm. So of course he goes and tries this case and he gets zeroed. And in the like autopsy of what happened, part of it's that the method he was focus grouping these cases with, he was essentially hiring people to tell him what he wanted to hear. That wasn't his intention, but he was paying people to tell him what he wanted to hear. So of course he was getting excellent results. And just learning how to avoid that, how to keep that from happening. So instead of getting the compliments you want, you get the feedback you need.
Yes, exactly. Yep. I mean, I've been there. I did a whole autopsy on a case where I did a bunch of focus groups and I totally ignored them. I mean, I thought I didn't think I did. I didn't know that I was, but then I tried my case and I realized that I was. I've also had conversations with defense counsel who are like, I focus grouped this case and I didn't think it would go this badly. And I'm like, well, hire me next time. I don't think we're doing it right now. All right, awesome. And then that brings us to graduation. What is that? It looks like last day is kind of disconnects, takeaways, and then what does graduation look like?
Yeah, it's fun. Nothing crazy, no one wears gowns or anything wild, but have dinner at Papa Don's house. He was there. As I said, it was great because a bunch of faculty were there anyway. And then, like Greg Luther randomly walks in holding a beer and we're like, oh, we know who you are, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone was so nice. Ada was there. So we got to meet her and she had just like assumed the deanship, right? So so she maybe was a little shell shocked, but she wasn't showing it.
Ada always keeps her cool. She's very cool.
There you go. And, we all had dinner, sat around talking, he had been teaching all day. Don had been teaching all day and he still had so much energy. So he kind of hung out talking forever. Oh, nice. And then, late that night, we all headed back mainly to our hotels. I drove back home that night. So got home around 1 a.m. and was done with Beast.
All right. Wow. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Galen, for all that information. Is there anything else we need to know before we wrap up here?
Not really. Look, if you're nervous about doing it, it's definitely doable. And if you're the type of person where you're going to do better just kind of getting it all done in 2 weeks instead of trying to spread it out over a year and a half, it's definitely for you.
Thanks. All right. Well, I'm considering it. I'm still considering it for myself. So all of us, those of us who are graduates, who are master's graduates, whatever it may be, let's keep looking into it and keep getting feedback about it, because I think this is such a cool course and I'm excited that it is offered now. So thank you again, Galen, for being here. And thank you to all of you who joined us live for this week's episode of Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. If you liked the episode, please click the thumbs up little button thing to feed the YouTube algorithm. I know it may not seem like a lot, but it does. The algorithm will show these videos to other folks who are looking for information about, whatever keywords we use while we're speaking about the content. And don't forget to subscribe and sign up for alerts so you don't miss an episode. As always, I am always working behind the scenes to set up new and exciting guests. We have some replays and pre-recorded episodes coming up in the next few weeks, but we'll be back live as soon as possible. Don't forget, you can always send suggestions on topics and speakers. We want to give you what you want, and that's a big part of the entire KTI philosophy, not only this podcast, but it includes us as well. Have a wonderful weekend and a very happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you all next time.